Okay, hello and welcome to the 13th letter in the series of Copperplate Majuscules. So today is the letter M. My X height as normal is 5mm, meaning my whole letter is 15mm high. I'm using a Leonard EF Principal nib in an oblique holder, along with some black watercolor ink. So looks like everything's kind of split up. Okay, so if I start right here, the first thing that we're going to do is a backwards line of universal beauty. So just something like that. A lot of times you can just put a terminus dot here. We'll make that decision later. With an M, you want to make sure that you are alternating between thick and thin lines. And that there is some level. There we go. So you've got some level of uniformity. If I just put a terminus dot right here, then I can clean off my nib just really quickly so it doesn't damage it. Okay, so let's go into this. An M, I kind of want to zoom in a little bit on here. There we go. So an M right here has your backwards line of universal beauty. So if I call it a universal line of beauty right here. So your middle third should be on your slant line, roughly, give or take. It's important to note that whatever you have for this, because I have seen people that don't do a universal line of beauty, they just do a slanted line up from the bottom, which is absolutely fine. But whatever angle you've got here is the angle that you need to replicate here. You've got two parallel lines right there. And whatever thickness that you have on your downstrokes, so if we say right here that upstrokes, Ryan, frame there I am, upstrokes must be parallel. And downstrokes should be even. So that means that I should have a uniformity between the thin lines. So we've got a thin line, and then we've got a thick line, followed by a thin line, followed by a thick line. There should be uniformity between both of these types of line. If you have a difference in angle between your thin lines, then it's going to look as if your M is leaning one way or the other, and it's also going to wreck the angles between your lines. The biggest thing to look for in an M is the negative space in the letter. So for example, if I'm looking at the negative space, which is right here, it should be, I mean, I've eyeballed it, but it should be as close as you can get to exactly the same on this side. So I haven't got one that's a much thinner angle than the other. They increase in angle in approximately the same rate. So that means that I haven't got a very skinny apex versus a much wider one. It's going to make the letter look unbalanced. So we don't want unmatched ones. You can have both of them be wider or both of them be more narrow. The issue that I would have with them being both wider is that it's gonna, because M is quite a large letter anyway, it goes much wider than a lot of other majuscules do. It's gonna make it look just ginormous compared to the rest of your writing. And M is one of those letters that you have to absolutely nail, because it's, I mean, for envelope addressing, it is the most common letter for all the Misters and Misses and Miss that you have to write. It's the most common majuscule. So it's worth getting right. Talking about where we can flourish on an M, you obviously have a terminus dot here. You can take this up and continue it on and whatever, should you need to. Normally, I don't think there's a lot of room on the left to flourish, but it is a flourishable area should you need it. Oh, I've made that far too short. Put that there. So that is a flourishable area. I think I'm still in frame, I am. You need to keep the legibility of the points of your letter. The middle, because it's so tall, you can bisect it if need be. I think I've only ever seen that once or twice before, but it's not impossible to find. The legibility is coming from the peaks and the lowest point of your letter. So as long as they are unbisected, that they're clear and legible, then it's going to read as an M. Where you can flourish, where do I have some space? I think I have some space over here actually. Can I get something over here? I'll move that over and then I definitely can. So in here, what we can do is we could say, right, I'm just going to do a completely normal line of universal beauty backwards, followed by my full downstroke down. Again, line of universal beauty backwards, my full downstroke down. So this is a wider one, which I've attempted to make a little bit wider, just to show the difference. Another flourishable area is because your eye will naturally follow the shape of the letter, means that you have a flourishable area right here. And that's something that I've seen done before, and it's the way that you can bisect the letter. So we could have, do I have enough space if I move that over? I do. I think so anyway. Yeah, maybe I can move it down. Move it down. That's probably better. Right. So I'm doing my universal line of beauty backwards, followed by what would be a full pressure downstroke. Then, to do this flourish here, I'm going to copy my universal line of beauty up until the 2/3 mark, so that I'm still getting the uniformity between the troughs of my letters, and I'm going to carry on. So I'm parallel to my slant line, so all of this is parallel to my slant line. I hope I'm still in frame there. I think I am. It's hard to see, I'm not at my normal desk. Okay, so wherever it's going to go sideways, so it's going to be parallel to one of the guidelines going directly left and right. Eventually it's going to end up there. We're then going to curve it back round so that my oval is either pointing along the slant line, like mine is right here. So this is pointing along the slant line. I think I'm still good there. So that's pointing along the slant line, or I can have an oval that points like this one does, directly along the guidelines. Okay, so I'm right here. I'll tell you what. Let me have a thing. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna make mine point right, and I can just finish that off there. So my oval, you can see I've got a section in the middle, which is on my guidelines, and I've gone an equal amount below as I've gone above, give or take. I've tried to eyeball it as best as I can. Right, and then for the last stroke of my M, because it's looking very like an N currently, I'm just going to go straight down. It can be a so this stroke right here can be a large underturn. Am I still in frame? I'm hoping so. I've moved it very far over. There we go. So that can be a large underturn. Oh yeah, no, definitely. I can see the edge of the paper. Okay, that can be a large underturn. So if you are doing square tops, in your letters, then it could be just a square top, or it could be a gradual increase of pressure, whichever way you're doing it could be here. You can take this up into here, but from what I've explained before about bisecting, is that's not going to really do you any favors. There's no problem at all with dropping it below. You're not losing the legibility of your letter. Okay. What it absolutely shouldn't do is meet that line. It should either cross into the open area or cross even higher above, if that's appropriate. You should always have that be a separate thing. It should not meet this line if this line is flourished. Okay, so if I took this even higher up, I could do that, but I don't want that to meet here. That's going to cause too much of a busy junction. And it's going to draw the attention away from your letter. Okay, so keep it nice and low. You can flourish the other side should you want to. There's my other side, I think, right here. That's it. So I can flourish the other side should I want to, whatever. If you've got a more fanciful sort of piece of work, then that's absolutely a possibility. I've completely messed up doing that as an oval, but never mind. If you've got a more fanciful piece of work, then a flourishing on both sides is possible. Or if you have an issue with centering, then flourishing on both sides is possible if you need to add a bit more weight on the left. Okay, so an M can also be quite restrictive in the letters that you have to the right of it. So for example, in this flourish, I couldn't have any ascenders in my letter. So if I had the word mill, I wouldn't be flourishing on the right hand side. So if I do a little example, hold on, let me get my pen. If I do a little example on here of a couple of words that we can look at. Something on my nib, hold on, there we go. Okay. So there's my downstroke. I'm going to leave that there, purely because I know that I have a entry stroke coming up for the word mill. I can just like turn that under, so make an underturn. So I could just do that here. Then that would become my entry stroke for my next letter. Oh, got just a bit too much ink on there. There we go. Here we go. It's not very balanced, but you can see the example clear enough. So, all right. So I have two large letters here. It means that if I want to flourish this letter, I would probably do something on this side rather than this side. So I could just do something simple. Like I could just turn it, yeah, rather than putting a terminus dot. I can also, depending on whether you have any descenders or not, take the M lower. So I could do, I think I'm still in frame there, I'll check in a second. I think I am, yeah, I think I'm good. Okay. So I'm not flourishing on the way up. I am gonna continue my downstroke just a little lower, so I can get a little flourish into here, and I could just put a terminus dot over here. That would be appropriate if you had a letter with no descenders, or if you had a very heavily flourished letter, or if you had M as an initial and then you've got a lot of space underneath the dot before the next majuscule. which is I don't know what your majuscule might be, but if you've got a large gap here and you're thinking about how to fill it, you can continue on this downstroke to fill in that space. You can even loop around the dot should you need to, but with the space between two majuscules, if I got my pen somewhere, you're only looking at roughly this much space if you're eyeballing it. So my next downstroke should be somewhere here. Okay. M's are a lot of fun. You just need to make sure. I have seen M's done in a myriad of ways before. As I said, it's one of the most popular letters. And once you find the way that works for you, then please stick with it. This is the way that I found that I like. It's very similar to a majuscule of A, but obviously just twice over. And once you've got that shape in, and you have it consistent across your letter, then you should be all good to go. I should mention also before I forget that the two pieces of negative space here must make sense with the inverse. So for example, we have these two must be the same, but they also must be the same as this space right here. So if I was drawing a straight line through the middle, well, my ink is drying really quickly, I do need to be careful. So I've got 1, 2, and 3 where I've got roughly equidistant gaps across the middle of my letter. It is very, very obvious when it's not done properly, and when it's unbalanced. And because the M must be so uniform to be legible, it means that there's really no wiggle room for deliberately offsetting this part and making any space wider than the other. So whatever space you start off with, that is what you've confined yourself to. So if it helps to stop, even stopping after each stroke to say, right, I've gone to here, if I go straight down, even if you go straight down in pencil, or line it up on your guidelines so that the slant line is at the top of your universal line of beauty, then you can see the amount of space that you're working with. If you don't like the amount of space, so if you want it to be wider, then you can swing this universal line of beauty out further. But that is completely personal preference. Okay, I think that's about it for an M. Please let me know if there are any questions or anything further I can help with.